Good morning, Daily Huddlers. Thank you for joining Tara and I this Wednesday, where we get to talk about all things relationships and communication. But before we do, we always like to start with a joke. And, I started with my son this year growing some plants, and we were going to grow pumpkins. We were semi-successful, but our one pumpkin that we had, we put on the counter, and like 3 days later, it was mush. It had rotted. So it got me thinking, Tara, do you know what you call a pumpkin that you drop on the ground?
No clue.
Squash.
Oh,
It's also what you call a pumpkin that rots on your counter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was sad. It was a little pumpkin. His name was Tommy. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. And I want to start us off with a couple of questions like we always do to get us grounded and here and present. I am going to start with Tom, who looks to be in the car. Tom, can you tell us what time it is?
Well, Kathryn, based on the traffic around me and based on the quality of your joke, the time is now. No other time.
That's right. The time is now. And let's see, Tara, I want to ask you, I do like asking you questions every now and again. Where are you and who are you going to hug today?
I am right here with all of you and nowhere else, fully in. And who will I hug today? I will hug my delicious husband.
Nice. Lucky man, lucky man. And finally, Sorrel, I would like to know, how are you and what are you grateful for?
Tara, I am not Tara, Kathryn.
Either one.
Either one, right?
The same.
I am the way I say I am. And today I am insignificant. And like I'm not concerned about how things show up or how life shows up or how I show up, not in a lackadaisical way, but like not putting too much importance on who I am.
I love that.
So that's how I say I am. And I am grateful for the brain and language.
Thank you, Sorrel. Thank you. And with that, with all of us who are here now and present, we're going to dive into a topic, quantity versus quality. What is the value of your network? Yeah, this is a fun topic. Tara and I had a good time talking about this ahead of time to really dive in. And so we want to bring this forward. And Tara, the question came from you. Why don't you get us started off with what you were thinking and bringing it forward?
Yeah, thank you. I give this a lot of thought, actually, network and networking. And before I really share a couple of experiences and how they've transformed the way that I see the value of a network, I want to speak to the value of it first. I have a cousin, actually, who has been quite successful in an industry. And she's a regional president, and it was time for her to go find something new. She wanted something bigger. She really wants to be CEO. She's got the chops. She's got the schooling. She has an unbelievable resume. So she starts sending out resumes and cover letters. Crickets. And what she realized, even with that kind of a resume and that kind of backing, so to speak, she was not very well networked. She didn't have people to speak up for her and say, I know her. I know what she's made of. I know what she's capable of. All the people had who were getting her resume was it just fell in a pool with other resumes. So whether we're an entrepreneur or we're in the corporate/employee setting, I see the value of a network as really just almost indispensable. Even a mom who works being a mom only at this season in her life, or a dad, even someone who is in a very specific industry, say in the dental field, We all need a network because we have needs and we need resources. We need to be able to pick up a phone and say, hey, do you know somebody who can help me with this? Whether it's in business, in the entrepreneurial world, or the corporate world, there is value in a network. But the question is around quantity versus quality. And so this takes me to just, was this? Yeah, it was last week. It seems longer ago. I went to a huge networking event last week. It was the 2023 Tech Prayer Breakfast in Atlanta. And there was about 1,500 people there. It was huge, big speakers. And if you know me at all, you know this is not my favorite setting, because I walk into a room like this and we have one of two choices when we go to a big event like this. We bring somebody with us, which we end up sticking with the people we know and not really meeting anybody new, or we go alone and we walk into a room, and you know what it felt like to me? Exactly what I knew it was going to feel like. Everybody in here knows each other except for me. I'm this one lone human being walking through this sea of people, which is not my comfort zone. What is my comfort zone is deep, rich, authentic conversations. So I'm not shy. It's just the energy it takes for me to kind of dance from conversation to conversation, keeping it light, keeping it surface, is extremely difficult for me. So I decided to just talk with one or two people and build a real connection. Something happened as I did this. I met a couple of really interesting people. I did make some connections, and we cannot dismiss the need for, once we are in a networking setting, okay, it will turn into absolutely nothing if we don't do one thing. What would that one thing be, Kathryn?
Follow up.
Yep, you got it. Follow up. But the spirit of the following up, I think, is an important piece of this conversation. And it takes me to one person I met that I will not be following up with. And I bumped into this gentleman. I think I was headed toward the bathroom. He introduced himself, and I told him a little bit about what I do. And he asked, and then I said that I help teams to grow stronger through communication. And he said, oh, you must know a lot of companies. And then he launched into the fact that he was just graduating from Georgia Tech. He had a very impressive resume, and he was looking for a job, and might I be able to help him? Then he reached out to me on LinkedIn, and he got my email and sent me an email, all three asking for my help. And what do you think he kind of did wrong?
He didn't ask you a single question about yourself. Didn't connect. He didn't genuinely connect.
Yeah. He just got enough to say, hey, I can use this woman.
Mm-hmm.
So think about this. I met him. I have absolutely no way to recommend him because I don't know him. I met him, but I don't know him. There are a few other people that I met. We sat down, we talked about children and life and career. Those people, I got to know a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They made me want to know them more. So I didn't come away from that event with 30 business cards. I came away with 4. And 3 of which I think will really be something that matters to me, my business, and how I can help make this world a better place in my small corner of it. So tell me a little bit, though, before we really kind of get to the quantity versus quality, and can we have both? Tell me a little bit about your experience in the world of networking and how you've grown your network, Kathryn.
Well, I hate networking. I hate traditional networking, going to networking events, getting dressed up in clothes I don't normally wear, trying to think about things to talk about with people I wouldn't normally run into. However, over the years, sometimes it is a necessary, I won't call it an evil, but it is something that I need to do to build my business. Mm-hmm. And so what I like to do is similar to what you do. One, choose a networking event that excites me. That seems like it has good energy, that it's got a good mix of people. I usually ask around, have you been to this? Try and find someone who's been, and then do what you do. When I get there, really try and connect with people, because at the end of the day, I do like people. And it will be an interesting event, night, day, evening, whatever, if I've connected with a person and learned something or shared something. So I try and I tried to do that with those traditional networking events. But what I've learned is similar to what you said about like a mom or a dad who that might be their job at the moment. And a network is so much bigger than just a work network. Thinking of schools that I might want to send my kid to in middle school and people who've been through that before, that's part of networking too. So I think for me, to be in the right energy, to be in the right space, wherever we go and whatever we do is probably one of the most important things. If I show up to the most fabulous networking event with all the right people who are just my people, and I am not digging it, I'm not in a good mood, or it really doesn't jazz me up, the energy that I put off is not going to be something that draws people to me. So I really focus on what do I want to do? Who do I want to spend time with, and use that time wisely.
I love that. And I'm glad that you're leaning into the energy that you bring, because that's another thing that really has come to serve me well. And so once I get out of my like, oh my gosh, I don't know anybody, everybody here knows everybody. Once I can get past that, actually, I'll tell you how I do get past it, because it's not like I get past it, then I go into this mantra that takes me into a good place. Is that I remind myself what I'm made of. What I'm made of is an absolutely sincere, joyful delight in giving. It's one of my huddle tenets. And I say to myself that I'm going to go in with a curious mind, delighting in other people's achievements and talents. And I just look for the gifts in people. I ask the questions that brings out something unusual that we can celebrate. And that puts me in the right energy to really connect with people.
I love that. It reminds me of, I haven't been to a traditional networking event in a long time, but I used to do a similar thing and say, what can I give to people tonight? Because to your point, that sort of typical mindset is like, what can I get? Who can I meet that can help me in my business tonight? And it's like, what can I give to people? Shifts the energy completely. Have no expectations. It's going to be a successful night if I can give something away, an energy, a good thought, a compliment, whatever it is, good conversation. And then like, that's a success versus scrambling for that right contact or scrambling for, like that next business deal. And I think that energy, people just are really drawn to that. Every business is a people business.
Absolutely.
And is a people engagement. So really it's just about people meeting people.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you said that every business is a people business, because it is our natural tendency. If we're in a business or we have a hobby that we really love, people see that we light up around it with passion. That's been my experience, that it's not so much what we say to people, but it's how we present it. And with passion and authenticity, people sense that. And that's really what sends a message to people. I want to shift a little bit though from this conversation of actual networking and ask this question, because I have some thoughts around this too. How do we keep a network? Let's just say we're networking in a positive way. We're building some real connections with people, 2 or 3 people, maybe a week. How do we keep that network that's growing? So in quantity, how do we hold on to the strength and the quality of it?
That's a good question. I think my first answer that comes to me is that it's in the quality of our interactions. Like, have you ever gotten a text or a message or an email from somebody that it was on their to-do list and they just got it done?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can,
it's copied and pasted and just maybe.
Yeah, or even it could be a friend and you can just tell they're in a hurry and they really wanted to reach it, but it's really quick and it's not that, it's like the energy that's behind it, that you can feel it. To me, I think how do you keep it growing in quality is the same way that you start it growing in quality. And that is behind whatever message, whatever outreach, whatever interaction that you have with people, be thoughtful, be intentional, and be present. Because I know when I get a text message from somebody that is quick off the cuff, and sometimes that's fine. It's not a judgment. It's just, if you're really trying to build connection with somebody that you possibly don't know very well, it's important to put the right energy behind it and to really genuinely connect. If you want to know something, genuinely ask it. If you're just asking a question because you think you should, or it's the right thing to do to get to the thing you really want to ask, that's going to be felt.
Yeah, totally. Like get the small talk over with so we can get down to business.
How's your family? Oh, that's great. Anyway, I wanted to know about if you want this deal or not. It's like, Yeah, so I think it's all the same answer. Honestly, it's be present. And it is felt whether it's an email, a text, a phone call, or actually live face to face. People know if you're present.
I love that. You know, this also in building a network, it makes me think about the word strategic. And hang in here with me for a minute, because it doesn't taste good in my mouth when I say strategic when we're talking about relationships. And I first learned this when I was calling on high schools in Northeast Georgia. And I've always wanted to be the person that would treat the janitor the same as the superintendent. Like, don't be strategic about who you show up for, how you show up, what you talk about. I'm that way, maybe almost to a naive fault, but I think it's something that has helped me to stay grounded and be intentional. And a young man was working for me, and he was really struggling in the meetings with the principals and the superintendents. I mean, he would just get so nervous. I still smile thinking about it because he's so successful today. But he was young and new in sales, and he would go in and talk to a principal, just fumble over his words. He started sweating and shaking. And one day we're in the high school cafeteria, and he is just laughing like you can't believe with the lady who worked in the cafeteria. She worked the register. And I said, "What is going on with you and Miss Connie?" He's like, "Oh, I love Miss Connie. We go way back." And I'm like, "Really now?" He's like, "Yeah, like weeks." And they were laughing and having the best time. And I said to him, I'm trying not to use his name. I said, "How can you build such a great relationship with Miss Connie, and yet you struggle with the superintendent so much you can't put a sentence together?" And he's like, "Well, because they're the superintendent, I'm nervous." And I said, "Do you have more respect for the superintendent than you do for Miss Connie? Look how hard she's working for her family." And he thought about that. And to this day, he will tell me that conversation drives the way that he builds his network. And he's like, "No, I guess I don't." I said, "Take the Miss Connie spirit and go talk to that superintendent with the same magic that you brought to her." And it changed the way that he looked at his network. So we do have to be strategic, damn it, at times. I mean, but you never know where people are going to go and land and when they're going to be able to help you if you just treat everybody with that Miss Connie kindness, that same love, that same value of what that person is and who they are in that moment.
Yeah, that reminds me of my first job out of college. And I was nervous with our regional director. It was like boss's boss, but he took a liking to me. And so I was in conversation with him, but I was so nervous around him. And my colleague was not. He was same age as me, early 20s, and he just was normal around. And I was like, "How can you do that around Dennis?" And he looked at me and he said, "He puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like you and I, right?" And that has stayed with me forever, because he is a person like you and I. What's the difference? Like, he puts his pants on one leg at a time. I thought, and it's the same thing. It's like, we're all people, but what gets in our head? So, again, we're all people, and we all want the same thing at the end of the day, which is connection.
What we're wired for.
That's what we're wired for. And so if you go in with a spirit of connection, be curious, be present, what could go wrong?
Absolutely. And then as we continue with this spirit and our network grows, what can we share, or maybe what can we learn from our listeners about how to keep those relationships in your network strong as it grows? It's not easy.
No, it's not, especially when time is of the, that's what one thing I normally hear is I don't have enough time. And I get that, because it does take time. But I wanted to speak a little bit to the question itself about quantity versus quality and answering your question, because the bottom line is it's not either, it's both. Because you and I have talked about this, like, if you have quantity, that's great, but you don't have a lot of quality, it doesn't matter. If those people aren't your right people, or they don't know how to connect you to the people who are your ideal client or who have what you need, doesn't matter how many people you have in your network. And vice versa. If you have quality, but only a few, it is a numbers game at a certain point, I mean, you do only need one. So, I mean, if I had to choose one, I would focus on quality, versus quantity. But when you get yourself out there and I mean, quantity kind of begets quantity. I mean, you're meeting people, you meet people and people talk about you. So I think it is both. And to answer your question sort of from that lens, it's like, I mean, I hate to say the same thing, but I'm gonna say the same thing. It's, be intentional, have some small habits that work. We had Laura West on here from Joyful Business, and she had the fun and fabulous follow-up. That's what she talked to us about. And it was reach out to 3 people every day. Doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter. It's that they don't have to be work related, but it gets you in the habit of just reaching out to 3 people every day. It could be a text, email, card, handwritten card. What do you like to do?
Mm-hmm.
Don't go buy a marketing program or a contact networking program and have them tell you to go do something you hate doing. It's not going to work. You've got to be in your good energy. If I like writing cards, which I do, handwritten cards, like I choose to do that,
Well, first you make the cards, which is amazing.
That's a whole other story.
Yeah,
yes.
that is.
Yeah.
That is a great thing to pay attention to is do what you like.
Yeah.
I put this blog out, and I know it's important because it reminds people a little bit about what my heart is, what I'm made of. And even if they don't open it, it reminds them that I'm there.
Mm-hmm. I
used to put videos in it, and I may still do that here and there, but I don't like making the videos. I like to write.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as we have some type of outlet to stay connected. But before we take this to questions, share with our listeners, Kathryn, what you said about my last blog, because it was kind of a fail.
Oh, well, first of all, it was an amazing blog post, which I highly recommend that you subscribe to Tara's blog because you are an amazing writer. But anyway, I got through it and I was reading it and it was awesome. And it was called Black People, which is a whole, we could have a whole session on catchy titles or titles that make people stop. That's why I read it. I was like, whoa, like, can you say that? Like, whoa. And so I read it. But what struck me is I get through it and I'm reading it through the lens of your listener because, or your potential client or whoever it is. And I'm not a single place in there said, do you want to connect with me? Do you want to schedule a call with me? How do you connect with Tara? And I'm like, Tara, communications expert. What the heck? All right, Tara up. And I'm like, Tara, if I wanted to contact you, how would I, besides replying to this blog, which is, that's 3 extra steps, So anyway, make it easy. Hello, people, make it easy. Click here, do this, answer the question for them. That's kind of a classic. Yeah. So,
and thank you. And I know that is true. And I failed. So I have to embrace the word strategic and keep my authentic self. So I challenge us all to do that today. It looks like we got some comments and questions here. Tom.
Well, thank you. Good morning, Tara. Good morning, Kathryn. I hadn't thought about the importance of energy until you all have described it in this way, in relationships and networking. So that is very much resonating with me. And then it makes me think of a question. What about when somebody in your network and you'd like to grow the relationship more? What about, like, say they reach out to you, or you're just out and about and you're not necessarily getting yourself in the right frame of mind because you're going to an event, but you're not in good energy, but you bump into someone or they contact you and you care about the relationship and you want to grow it. Trying to think about that. I mean, obviously you don't want to do any harm, but how do you think about situations like that?
So when you run in, like you're in a social or a networking setting, but you're really not in the headspace to be there.
I'm thinking more random than that. You're just out running an errand, or someone contacts you and you answer the phone and you're like, oh, it's my friend so-and-so. And wow, I'm not really ready for this right now, but there's an opportunity that I really should try to take advantage of.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple of answers for you, Tom. It's a great question because, and the first answer is we are all human. And so everyone can relate to having a bad day, not being in a great place. So the first thing I would say is if you can't get yourself sort of righted quickly, and this actually happened to me one time, somebody called me and I thought it was a telemarketer. So I started talking really kind of like, oh, really? Oh, really? And I was like, oh gosh, this is an actual person. I was trying,
Done that.
Anyway, if you
Oops.
can't right ship really quickly, be transparent, be human. You know what? I'm so sorry the way I answered the phone. You caught me at a really bad time. Gosh, that was really awkward. I'm so sorry, and just be transparent, being vulnerable in a genuine way. I wouldn't say never, but almost never steers you wrong. Just be human. And the second thing I would say to that is follow up later. Show them who you really are in your best energy, or say, I'd love to contact you next week, or maybe let's have lunch, knowing that you'll be in a better space when you get there, to show that was just a moment in time.
Thank you.
So this one thing that Kathryn and I have talked about is that sometimes it's fun when we have different solutions, or we don't totally see eye to eye, or we don't agree on what the answer would be. But Kathryn literally took the words out of my mouth. That's two things. Exactly what I would have said. It's just tell the person, be vulnerable. Today is just a really tough day. And I want to be better. Can we plan to get together sometime? Let's have coffee. Or if it's a phone call, same thing. And then, yeah. So I'm with you.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Mom.
Absolutely. I don't know if we have any more thoughts or comments. I wonder if anyone struggles with how they view their network. Because I used to not give network any thought when I was younger. And now I do, and I see the value in the relationships. What do you think, Sorrel?
I struggle with the word strategic too. So I found a way to kind of get around it and only maybe have one strategy. And that strategy is to just build relationships over time. So I'm not afraid, but I get as comfortable as you get when I'm in a big room and there's like 500 people and I'm trolling for cards or something like that. I don't like that part. So for the most part, I find myself avoiding that. And out of this conversation this morning, I'm thinking, maybe not. Maybe I could go there. And that would help feed the place where I network. So I found a place where I can be with people, but I'm with the same people over and over on a weekly basis. So it's an opportunity to work that one strategy where it's all about building relationships, not selling myself or my products, but really just digging in and getting to know people and making friends and building relationships that will last a lifetime. And then at some point in time, now I know you, Tara. If I know somebody who needs a little chat to the brain, I'm going to call you because I know you and I love you. So I think what you said about that young man who saw you and wanted to use you, and you said, well, I don't know him. So I'm always leery of being used or using others. And yet, when I go to a networking event, what's right there for me is what's in it for me.
Right.
Right. And so I always have to bump up against that. So thank you. Thank you for making me look. And what I'm seeing for myself is that maybe what I'm doing now needs to be complemented with a little bit of my participation in spaces where I find myself uncomfortable.
Thank you for putting some color around that. I had Sorrel because I had a sales manager that used to call like the people that could work the room. You see him, he called it shucking and jiving. And that person that just seems to come from group to group and just high-fiving and swinging and swirling. And that makes you think like, that's how you're supposed to network.
Yeah.
That ain't how I network.
Yeah, that's great. I want to leave us with one thing before Tara, let you close us out. I don't remember where I heard it. It's been recently, but it really struck me. And someone said, the magic that you're looking for is in the work that you're avoiding.
Was that Kimberly Odie that said that?
Is it?
Yeah.
Kimberly
Yeah,
Odie, I
where
give
she
you.
got it, but it was in our meeting.
Then
Totally.
let's credit Kimberly Odie because I've been thinking about that ever since I heard it. And that's what I hear in this networking conversation. It's like, what is the work, the event, the conversation that you're avoiding? And it's pushed me, just that comment alone has pushed me to go to places that I probably wouldn't have otherwise to really seek the magic that I'm looking for.
Thank you for ending us that way. I am so with you. I need to continue to get out of my slippers and into those cocktail parties.
Get those pajama bottoms off, put on some real pants, girl.
That's it. I'm headed down today to give them a workshop. So anyway, we love you all at the Daily Huddle, and thank you for enjoying this conversation with us. And I give my love to you, Kathryn, and to everyone who's showed up here to listen and to hopefully be motivated to go out and give a little bit more of that magic within you. And as you do that, don't take yourself too seriously. Make sure you take time to laugh, throw your head back, let those endorphins fly. That's pure energy. That will give you energy to eat better, to stress less, to get your sleep, and it will give you the energy you need to keep that body moving. We'll see you all next time on the Daily Huddle.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Love you all.
Laura, thank you.
Bye, Laura.
Awesome
We love
job.
you.
One love, guys. One love.
I love Rashida.
Thank you.